My name's Ann Scanello, and I am one of the tutors for the Seeds of Literacy program. The lesson that I'm going to be giving today is going to be on graphing inequalities. It's a lesson that would be considered an algebra lesson, and I know in the Seeds curriculum, it's actually generally taught towards the end of all of the math subjects. It's kind of stuck in there with the quadratics and linear equations and graphing slope and all of those things. But even if you have not made it all the way through algebra, I feel like these skills kind of stand alone. And so I think it still would be worth your time to go through the video lesson and work through the problems. When I've taken the practice GED math test, every time I've taken it, there have been a couple of problems like this on there. So let's go ahead and get started. So there were 4 different packets from the Seeds program that had similar problems to what we'll be looking at. The packet that had the most looks like this. It's called Graphing Inequalities, and it's from the Number Power Algebra book. So if you happen to have that packet, this would be a good video to help you review. So first of all, let's talk about the inequality symbol. Hi, Tylisha. I see you just arrived. We'll keep on going. Inequality. We've got the first symbol circled in red.
Hey, ladies, could you guys possibly mute your microphones unless you have a question? Just because we're getting a lot of, or I'm hearing a lot of feedback at my end.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so we'll see if that's any better.
Thank you. And then if you do have a question, unmute your microphone and jump right in. I just wanted to make sure everybody could hear okay, okay?
Okay.
Awesome. Great. Okay, thank you, Chris. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so now I have to unclick. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the inequality symbols. The first one circled in red, that's the less than symbol. And so you would read it like this. If this was our inequality, we would read that B is less than 9. You can tell that this says less than, or it's the less than symbol, because as you read it from left to right, the left side is smaller, so it's less than. The next symbol, circled in orange, is the greater than symbol. And again, from the left side going to the right, the larger opening comes first. And so that's how I remember that that's the greater than symbol. If you had the inequality N, this symbol 16, it's read N is greater than 16. The next one circled in yellow, that symbol is called the is less than or equal to. So this will be read X is less than or equal to 5. Same thing, going from the left side to the right side of the symbol. The left side is the smaller side. Circled in green, we have the greater than or equal to symbol. This inequality is read S is greater than or equal to -4. And the last one is not equal to. And we're not going to work with this one very much, but you will see it throughout all kinds of math lessons. It's the equal sign with the not slash going through it. Okay, we're going to practice reading some of the inequalities. So I know Tylisha usually likes to work along with me. Danielle, you can decide. If you want to give the answers out loud, you can unmute your microphone to give the answer. But the first one, who wants to read this inequality for me?
I can.
Let's have Danielle read the first one.
So it's going to be N is less than 5.
That's perfect. Okay, Tylisha, why don't you read this one?
Okay. 5 is greater than n. Thank you.
And something that I wanted to point out, the 5 is on the side of the symbol with the open mouth. And in red, the 5 is also on the side of the symbol with the open mouth. So really, these two inequalities mean the same thing. They're written different ways, but in both cases, all of the n values have to be smaller than 5. So let's read the next one. So Danielle, what's this one?
So we got X is less than or equal to 12.
Perfect. And Tylisha, how about this one?
17 is greater than or equal to x.
Nice. And Danielle?
We have M is greater than 12.
Perfect. Tylisha?
12 is less than k.
Good. And Danielle?
We have 27 is that's not equal. No, it's equal to, but it's not equal to. What's the
You're correct. It's called not equal to.
not? Yeah, because
The
it
not
got the
equal
line
to
there.
sign.
So go ahead
Yeah,
and read that one for me. How would we read that out loud?
27 is not equal to W.
Perfect. And Tylisha?
21 is greater than or equal to n.
Nice. And Danielle?
We have M is greater than N.
And Tylisha?
38 is less than or equal to x.
Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to select values that are true for each statement. I'm going to have Danielle do the top one. So if this was a multiple choice question and the inequality is n is less than 10, tell me which ones of these numbers you would circle. So this one's for Danielle.
Is less than 10. I will circle the -2, the 0, the 3, and the 7.
Perfect. And Tylisha, if you saw y is greater than 3, what are the values that I have listed that are greater than 3?
Okay, say that one more time.
Okay, so you're doing the second one, if you can see it.
Okay.
The inequality is y is greater than 3. So if this was multiple choice and you had to pick the values that were greater than 3, what values would you circle?
6, 11, and 23.
Perfect. Okay, when we're graphing inequalities, people assume it's going to be on the coordinate grid. And I know Danielle was even asking me, do I have to go find some graph paper? When we're graphing inequalities, we don't graph on grid paper, we graph on the number line. So, and we use these symbols. We have an open dot or we have a closed dot. And the open dot looks like this top one. And that means that it does not include that value. We're going to use the open dot with the less than or the greater than symbol. The other symbol we're going to use is going to be the closed dot. And we're going to use the closed dot anytime that value can be included. It could also be read as it could be equal to that value. And we're going to use the closed dot when we have less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, or equal to. So we'll practice this because I know that wasn't super clear. Here's an example of what graphing an inequality is going to look like. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, okay. So it says n is greater than -5. So on our number line, -5 is our important number. We identify that. We make a decision. Am I going to put an open dot or a closed dot? The symbol is a greater than symbol. So it can't be equal to -5. It would never be exactly -5. So we're going to use the open circle to represent it won't ever be exactly -5, but the values of n are all the numbers that are bigger. And so they've written that in a dark line. This is kind of what we're learning today and practicing. Another example, if r is greater than or equal to 0, they use on the bottom part of my screen where it's black, I put the little code and it's a closed-in circle. So can you guys read a closed circle? What does that mean? Can you read it from your screen?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I wasn't sure how much you can see. I can't see it very well on mine with all of the graphics for GoToMeeting, but that's okay. So because it's r is greater than or equal to 0, we used a close-in circle. It's the possibility it could be exactly equal to 0. And then r is all the numbers that are also bigger. So the graph darkens and shows an arrow, everything to the right of 0. Another example, y is less than or equal to -2. -2 is our important number. We're going to use the closed dot because our symbol is less than or equal to. And we're going to shade or draw a dark arrow for all the values that are smaller than that. Okay, so now we're going to practice. And the first thing we're going to do is write an inequality. So both of you guys, take a few seconds, think time. And when you're ready, let me know. And then I want you to tell me what the inequality is that matches this graph. Or we can even take turns. I could say this, let's see, the first one will be Danielle's. What's the inequality?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
So it's going to be S is greater than or equal to -3. So we're going to use the closed dot, and then it's going to be a darker line going all the way across to the higher number.
You're awesome. See if I can get it to advance. Nice job. S is greater than or equal to -3. Okay, Tylisha, how about this one? What's the inequality that matches this graph?
R is greater than, no, R is less than or equal to -6. So you would need okay. I'm not good at this.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so the circle is on the number 1. So we know 1 is going to be a part of our inequality. And R, the values of R are where this dark arrow is. So you would say R, and are the values of R smaller than or larger than 1, Tylisha?
The values are greater than.
Well, this arrow.
No, smaller than because it's going towards the negative integers.
That's perfect. Yeah, it is. It's going towards the negatives. Anytime that the arrow on a number line goes to the left, things are smaller. So the values of R are less than 1. Now, we can't, because this is an open circle, right down here in the black at the bottom of the screen, I've got it that the open circle means that it's not included. So it does not include 1. So it's just the numbers that are less than 1. So we use the open circle anytime we're going to have a less than or greater than symbol. Okay, let's try the next one. Whoops. Okay, Danielle. Sorry, cheated on that one. Danielle, what's the inequality that matches this one?
Okay, so it's going to be, is that an R?
Yes, it's an R.
It's going to be R, and it's open, so it's going to be less than because it's pointing to the negative. R is less than 1.
Perfect. And then I put Another way to write the answer on the screen at 1 is greater than R. I did that. Proper formatting, you would talk about your variable first. And so the way Danielle read it, R is less than 1. That's what I would consider to be the best answer. But I have seen inequality problems that are multiple choice, and they don't always put the variable first. So I just want you to be aware that R is less than 1. It is the exact same answer as 1 is greater than R. I wanted to show you a couple of examples like this.
Okay.
Because in a multiple choice situation, you have to recognize that those are equivalent.
And sometimes
And
on
that's
the
what
test.
you were.
Oh,
Go
I
ahead,
was just going to say,
I'm sorry. Go
sometimes,
ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to say that not only will you maybe see it reversed in the multiple choice, sometimes the question might ask you to reverse it, or they might ask you to switch it from one to the other. So it's a very handy thing to be able to do.
And I will say something else. I don't think I included it in the slideshow. A student many years ago shared something with me that really has helped a lot of people. Sometimes they will write the inequality like the one on the right. It'll say like 1 is greater than or equal to R. If you have to put that onto a number line, a little trick is always to read it back starting with the variable. So even if they write it as 1 is greater than R, if you will, when you're trying to graph it, think to yourself, R is less than 1, it's going to be much easier to graph it. Graphing something that starts with the, the value and then the symbol and then the variable, very difficult for your brain to think backwards and think about direction on the number line. So if you're having to graph it from something like this, always start by reading the variable. And then you can see the variables next to the small n. So reading backwards, I'm reading R is less than 1. Okay, let's move on. Tylisha, how about this one? Write the inequality for this one. What would it be?
S is greater than -2.
You're really close. It's a closed dot. So
Okay. Okay. Oh, -2. Okay. Is it -2? Is it -2 is less than S?
start with S. It's always going to be easier to give the answer if you're given the choice. Start with the letter S. But we have a closed-in dot. So Tylisha, on your phone, can you see the bottom of my screen where it says a closed-in dot means includes or could be equal to?
Yeah.
Okay. And then,
Okay. So
okay, so then anytime you see a closed-in dot, you're either going to say less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So what's this one going to be?
Okay. This one is S is greater than S is greater than or equal to -2.
You're awesome. Perfect. Nice. And then I just wanted to show you, you might see it written -2 is less than or equal to S. You need to correct it. Okay. Danielle, how about this one? Write the inequality.
Before we go on, I
Yep.
thought if you flip anything, you like okay, you know how you just showed us the other example. If
Okay.
I would have flipped the signs and changed where the variable is, doesn't that mean I have to make that 2 positive, or am I thinking about something else?
You know what, Danielle, you were an excellent math student. I can't believe that you remembered that nuance of this lesson.
When you change it on the other side, it changes the sign and it changed something. I forgot.
You're right. And that's when you multiply or divide by a negative number. And we're going to practice that. We're getting there.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that's not this, but I can't believe you remembered that detail. That's awesome that you remembered that. Okay, so Danielle, how about this one? What's the inequality that goes with this one?
Okay, so this one is going to be D is less than 4.
Perfect. And you also might see it as 4 is greater than D. How about this
Okay.
one, Taylisha? Graph. Oh, this time, Taylisha, we're graphing. So I've given you the inequality, and it's up at the top of the screen. It says n is greater than or equal to 0. So Taylisha, you can just describe for me how you would graph it. So what number are we going to have to mark on the number line?
We're gonna have to mark 0.
We are. And are we going to put a closed dot or an open dot on 0?
I don't know.
Okay, look at the bottom of the screen in the black part where it tells you that if the open dot, it goes with the less than or greater than symbol. And if you've got the closed dot, it goes with the less than or equal to, greater than or equal to symbol. So we have the greater than or equal to symbol. So do I need an open dot or a closed dot?
We need to close that.
I do need a closed dot. Okay, so I've got a closed dot on the 0. So if n is greater than or equal to 0, will my arrow be going to the right or will my arrow be going to the left?
It will be going to the right. No, it will be going to the left.
Oh, go back to what you said before.
Hey, so I was right. It will go to the right.
Yes, you were right. It goes to the right. Okay, closed in dot on the 0. And it says n is greater than, or I'll say bigger than, n is bigger than 0. Well, the values larger than 0, greater than 0 are to the right. Nice. Okay, so Danielle, how about this one? Tell me what this graph would look like.
It's going to look like a open circle on 3, and it's going to be going to the left.
You're awesome. Perfect. Okay, Taylisha, how about this one? X is greater than -2. What's the graph going to look like?
Okay, the dot would go to -2.
Is it an open dot or a closed dot?
And it would be an open dot.
You're awesome. Good. Okay, so if X is greater than -2, will the arrow be going to the right or the left?
To the left.
Or?
Oh, will be going to the right? Oh, because greater. Okay, right. So greater will be going up.
When I learned this lesson, or I'm not this lesson, but an earlier lesson as a young child, we always made the symbol into Pac-Man. And so we always said, you know, Pac-Man, he's wanting to eat the X. He wants the numbers that are bigger than a -2 because he always wants the biggest stuff. Okay, so Danielle, how about this one? What would this graph look like?
It's going to look like a closed circle on 4, and it's going to be going to the left.
Perfect. Okay, how about this one, Taylisha? What's this graph going to look like?
It would be, the circle would go on the 0, and it would be closed, and
Alicia, before you tell me about the arrow, I want you to do me a favor. Read this out loud, because if you'll say it out loud, I think it's going to help you with the arrow. So what does it say?
n is greater than or equal to 0.
So which way does the arrow go?
So the arrow will be going to the right.
Perfect. Nice. Okay, Danielle, how about this one? What's this graph look like?
S is less than 3, so we're going to have an open circle on 3, and it's going to be going to the left.
Perfect. Nice. Okay. Solving the inequality. this is going to get, and I'm not sure how much practice I want to do with this because it can get a little tricky. In an inequality, the variable may not be standing alone. And an example of that is at the bottom of the screen. It says 2x plus 5 is greater than or equal to 5. So if you're told to graph that inequality, it is going to be really, really, really tough to do in this form. In order to graph it, you're going to have to rewrite the inequality so that the variable stands alone. And the steps that we take to rewrite it so the variable is by itself, it's called the symbolic method, but it's also, I know I've done, it's a huge topic, and a lot of people consider that skill algebra and kind of the big idea of what algebra is. I myself have done a couple of videos, one on solving simple equations, one on solving multi-step equations. I know some of the other tutors have done some examples of this. So we're going to try it. I've got several examples that we're going to work through, and we're going to try it. But if you find this skill to be really difficult, it's because the skill is difficult. And I will say there are some other videos you could go back and review. But let's go ahead and try some right now. Okay, so the question said that we were going to solve the inequality. So here's our example. So it was 2x plus 4 is greater than or equal to 5. And we have to rewrite it so that x is all by itself on one side of the symbol, of the inequality symbol. So in order to do that, I'm going to need to simplify. And the easiest thing for me to simplify on this problem is that plus 4. So my left side of the equation is very messy, 2x plus 4. The easiest thing for me to simplify or get rid of was that plus 4. So I'm going to do the opposite of that. I'm going to say minus 4. When we are solving equations, anything I do on one side, I have to do the exact same operation on the other side. That's why I stuck this blue equal sign in there, because when I'm teaching students how to solve equations, multi-step equations, I want you to remember it has to stay balanced. So if we're going to take away 4 from the left, we're going to take away 4 from the right. So when I do that, the plus 4 minus 4, that cancels out. But I still have 2x. It's still greater than or equal to, and 5 minus 4 was 1. Okay, so it's simpler, but I still don't have the variable all by itself. So in order to get x by itself, I'm going to have to divide by 2, because 2 divided by 2 is 1, and 1x is the same thing as x. So again, anything I do on the left side, I have to do the exact same thing on the right side. So I'm going to divide both sides of the equation by 2. When I do that, I end up with 1x on the left side. My inequality symbol is still greater than or equal to, and I have 1/2 on the right. So 1x is the same thing as x. That's something students that are new to algebra, they're not used to that yet. But anytime I write 1x, it means the exact same thing as x. And in algebra, if you write 1x or 1q or 1v, it just looks strange. Normally, you'll just see it written as the variable. So the answer to this one would be x is greater than or equal to 1/2. Okay, so we're going to try another one. And I'm going to have Danielle start us out here. We need to solve the inequality, and x needs to be all by itself. So what do I need to do here?
All we need to do on this one is add 5 on both sides and then subtract. So it's going to be x is less than or equal to 3.
Ooh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Look at that one again, Danielle. The x is less than or equal to, perfect. Look at the right.
Oh, 7.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You are quite the math student. You're doing great.
I remember this part. This is something I like to do.
Good. Okay, so Tylisha, Now this one says 4y is greater than or equal to 16. And we need to get the y all by itself. So do you know how to solve this one?
Okay. That's positive 4y. So do we do a negative 4y on both sides?
Not quite. And I don't know how much algebra everyone has had, but when you've got a number with a variable, it's actually called the coefficient. The number in front of the variable is called the coefficient. We all understand that those are multiplying together. So we have to use the opposite of multiplication. So right now it says 4 multiplied by y. So what's the opposite of multiplying, Taylisha?
Oh, division. Oh, so you would divide it. Okay.
Divide by how much?
You would divide it, and it would be 4 is, it would be, no, it would be y is greater than or equal to 4.
Yeah. And both of you guys are really good at solving problems in your head, which is great. We're going to divide both sides of the equation by 4. And Taylisha, you were correct. 1y is greater than or equal to 4, which is really y is greater than or equal to 4. I write it both ways, just in case I have some new algebra students. Okay, Danielle, your turn. 5y minus 3 is less than or equal to 27. This is kind of ugly.
So first we gotta add 3 on both sides. So then we're gonna have 5y is less than or equal to, and then it's gonna be 30. And then we gotta divide 5 on both sides, so it's gonna be y by itself is less than or equal to 6.
Dang, girl, you were fast. The correct answer, y is less than or equal to 6. Oh, this is the special rule that Danielle was talking about before. And it says, if you multiply or divide each side of an inequality by -1, then you need to reverse the inequality sign. So this is, I'll call it kind of an obscure rule. I did not, when I went back and I was teaching math, I had to go back and relearn this. Danielle, I'm impressed that you actually remembered there was some kind of a rule, but it's
but I didn't remember when to do it though.
Multiplying or dividing by a negative is when you're going to flip that sign. Okay, so let's practice here. Practice solving the inequality.
Oh, okay, I see it.
So Danielle, I'm going to let you go ahead and do this one. So how would you solve it?
So for this, I'm to get that negative off is going to be y by itself, and we gotta flip that to greater than or equal to. Then it's gonna be 6.
Not quite.
Okay, what we doing?
So remember, I've got negative y, and I want it to be a positive y. I want y all by itself. I don't want that negative sign there. What am I going to have to do to that side of the equation to turn it into y? What do I have to multiply?
Okay. So do we divide negative y on both sides and flip the sign?
No.
Show me first, and then I won't.
Okay. So the negative y, in order for it to be just positive y or just y, we're going to have to multiply it by -1. And remember, if we're multiplying the left side of the equation by -1, we have to do the exact same thing to the right side of the equation. So I hate, it gets confusing. This is not a variable x, this means multiply. So we're multiplying the left and the right by -1. So when we do that, I think I put it in here. Yeah, so when we multiply by -1, our inequality symbol flips the opposite direction. So we used to have a less than or equal to symbol. Because we were multiplying by -1, the symbol flips around and it becomes y is greater than or equal to -6. Does that kind of
Oh,
make sense?
everything changed. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and I think that this was one of the most confusing things for students. And it's, once you've seen it, it's not so bad, but remembering that little nuance can be challenging. Okay, let's practice this one. So Danielle, do you want to try this one or you want Tylisha to do it? What do you think?
I'll give it a try.
We can
So
do
we got
it. We can
3
do it.
-5. I'm trying to refresh and remember what is going on. Let me see. Okay, so first and foremost, we gotta subtract 3, right?
You want to know what? I
And then
actually solved this one 2 ways. And the first way I did it was subtracting 3. So I want to hear, how would you do that?
that's how I see it. We gotta subtract 3. We gonna get -x by itself.
Oh,
That
whoops.
integer is gonna be less than, and then this is 5 minus 3. That's gonna be 2, but then it's gonna be -2.
Nice job. Okay. Danielle, that's correct. I just realized I solved it the other way first. So yours was perfect, but I wanted to show there's actually 2 different ways to solve this problem. So for
Okay.
me, I did it the other way first, and then I did it your way. I said I have -x. I could just add x to both sides of the equation. That
Mm-hmm.
-x plus x is going to cancel. That's going to leave me with 3. I still have the greater than symbol, but now I have 5 plus x. So now I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides of the equation. And I get the answer, -2 is greater than x. That's my brain, that system makes the most sense. But I would say most people probably would solve it the way Danielle did. So 3 minus x is greater than 5. So she subtracted 3 from both sides. That leaves us with -x is greater than 2. And in my experience, the reason, a very common mistake is students drop off that minus sign. You can't just say x is greater than 2. That minus sign sticks with the x. So it's -x is greater than 2. And then we had to multiply both sides by -1, which means, multiplying by -1, which means we have to flip that inequality sign. We went from the greater than to the less than sign. So our answer is x is less than -2. Tylisha, are you following that?
Yes, I'm trying
Okay, good.
I'm trying to understand it.
It's, Tylisha, I will say this is very confusing. And I'm not sure if you were on. I said at the beginning that this is an algebra lesson, and the way Seeds has their packets ordered out, this is one of the last packets. They have it with quadratics, and they have it with linear equations and graphing slope and rate and all of that. And I wanted to teach it here because I see it as kind of a standalone lesson. So it's challenging, but this is one of those skills that, if you maybe can do this before you get all the way through all of the other packets. So, okay, can y'all still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. My screen over here froze up, but that's okay, so long as y'all can still hear me. So it says, solve the inequality and graph the solution. So we have to do 2 things now. We have to kind of put it all together. The first thing we have to do is solve the inequality. So both of you guys, let's try. Well, you know what? I'll let Danielle solve the inequality, and then I'll have Tylisha help us graph the answer. So Danielle, solve that for us. 3x plus 7 is greater than 10.
Okay, so what I did was subtract 7, and then subtract 7, that cancel out right there. And then I have 3x is greater than 3. Then I got to divide 3 on both sides. So now I have x is greater than 1.
Nice. Okay, now hold up right there.
But now, but wait, is that right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. You want to know what?
So that,
You're looking for when do I have to flip that inequality symbol? Most of
oh
the time,
yeah, I was.
yeah, most of the time you don't have to do that. And so, okay, why is this? Okay, most of the time you don't have to flip it. So only when you're
Only
multiplying or
when it's
dividing.
negative.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's your job is to try to remember that. Okay, but
Okay.
now.
So it's going to be an open circle.
Oh wait. Okay, go ahead. Finish
Going
it.
to the
Open
right.
circle on what?
It's going to be an open circle over 3 going to the right.
Look at that one more time. Remember, your answer was x is greater than 1. So we're graphing x is greater than 1.
Oh, okay. So it's going to be an open circle over 1
Perfect.
going to the right.
And it will
Okay.
be going to the right. Perfect. Nice. Okay, so Taylisha, how about this one? You want to try solving 4n plus 5 is less than or equal to 1? It's a tough problem, but I'll help you with it if you need help.
Okay, it would be you would subtract 5. You would subtract 5 from. You would subtract 5 from positive 5 and subtract 5 from 1, right?
Nice. Do you have
Okay.
pencil and paper today, Taylisha?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, wait, now I don't know if I can hear you.
No, I do, but I don't right now.
Okay, because I'll be your secretary again.
Right now.
Okay, so you just always subtract 5. And so what am I left with when I subtract 5 from both sides?
When you subtract 5 from both sides, you'll get 4n is less than or equal to negative 4.
You're awesome. Hold on a second. I got to get that written. Okay, I'm still not finished. What do I need to do now? I want n all by itself.
And then, say that again.
I want n all by itself. So what do I have to do now? Right now I have 4n. Multiplied by n. So what's the opposite of multiplication?
Division.
Nice. So what do
So
I
you
have to
have
do to both sides?
Okay, so you would have to divide by 4.
Nice. And if
Okay,
I do,
so it would be n is less than or equal to 0, because 4 that would it be 4, or it's like negative 4 divided by 4 is 0, right?
nope. Do you know
No,
what
it's
4
1.
divided by 4 is?
It's 1.
Okay. So we have negative 4 divided by positive 4. What's that going to be?
That's going to be negative 4 divided by positive 4 is negative 1.
You're awesome. Okay, so I will. There we go. N. Let me write it up on the. That's it. N is less than or equal to negative 1. Fantastic. Okay, so now Taylisha, we need to graph this one. Tell me what the graph is going to look like.
Okay, so it would be the hole would be closed, the circle would be closed, it would be over to negative 1. and it would be going
But wait, before you
back.
tell me where the arrow is, read this out loud for me. Read it out loud.
Okay. N is less than or equal to -1.
So which way does the arrow go?
The arrow goes back.
It does go back. So which way is that? Left or right?
That's left.
Girl, you rock. Perfect.
Thanks.
Okay, Danielle, solve the inequality and graph the solution. What do you
All
think?
right, let me check. Let me check it out. We got 3 minus x is greater than 4. So, first thing first, um, I guess we would subtract the 3 on both sides. Okay, then we have negative x is greater than 1. Now it's time to get x by itself, so it's going to be x. Flip that sign back to negative, and then that's going to be -1. X is less than -1.
And I'm going to say, so Tylisha, this is that rule. I'm going to call it the Danielle rule. When you have to multiply by a negative number, you're going to flip the sign.
Say that again.
Do you see what I'm saying? So we had to multiply both the left and the right by a -1. So instead of having a greater than symbol, we had to flip it around to be a less than symbol. And I'm left with x is less than -1. Okay, whoops, and I keep holding on. There we go. X is less than -1. Did you get that, Tylisha?
No, not really. You said you had to turn the greater than sign to a less than sign.
Yes. And Danielle, go ahead and explain to us, when do we have to flip that symbol around? What makes us
Okay,
flip that symbol around?
so what made me flip that symbol around is because there's a negative sign on the variable.
Okay, and actually, my brain really thinks more like yours, Danielle, and less like the reason that she flipped it, Tylisha, is it was a negative x. She said there was a negative sign with our variable. And when we get it down to just a negative x or just a negative variable, she knows she's going to have to flip that symbol. Okay, now Tylisha, let me tell you something else. I've been teaching math a long time. There are a lot of things in math that are super duper important. This is one of those things in math, I would say most people have forgotten this rule. I probably don't have any friends that are not math teachers, who are not you guys, who are not my current students, who remember this. So Tylisha, you know, it would be great if you could remember every single detail, but you're doing fine. Most problems, you won't have to worry about that. Okay. But now it is, who was solving this one? Danielle. Danielle was solving it. Okay, Danielle,
Okay,
if you graph this one, we need to graph x is less than -1.
so what we're going to do is have an open circle over the -1 is going to be going towards the left.
That is exactly correct. Nice job. Okay, how about this one? So this one is Tylisha's. Uh-oh, this is a tough one. Okay, -2 plus 5 is less than 1. Oh, wait, I think I read that wrong. I don't know if I read it wrong or not. It's -2y plus 5 is less than 1. Okay, what do I have to do first, Alicia?
Okay, well, first you would have to subtract. There's a +5 on the left side of the symbol, so you would have to subtract it to a -5. So that would cancel out the 5 on that side, and on the other side it would be negative. So that would be -4. So it would be -2y is less than -4. Then
Okay.
you would have to divide. You would have to divide -2y by -2, and you would get y by itself, and it would be y is less than -4 divided by -2 is 2. So it would be y is less than 2.
Tyleisha, you
That was
picked
really
it
good.
up real quickly. Well, hold up, Danielle, because I was curious if you'd get it either, but I think you did get it, Danielle. Tyleisha, look at it again. You did a beautiful job. You knew that you had -2y, and you had to divide that by -2 to get y all by itself. And you knew to divide -4 by -2. You also did the calculations beautifully. But Tyleisha, remember how Danielle said a second ago, we had a negative with the variable. It was
Oh,
a
so you have to
negative thing.
switch it. Okay. So it would so instead of being less than, it would be greater than. It would be y is greater than 2.
That is a tough problem. That
That is
was a ridiculously tough problem. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Okay, y is greater than 2. We have to graph that now. What's that going to look like?
you would go to 2.
Okay.
Would go to 2 on the number line. And the arrow would go
Now, first of all, tell me,
to
do
the
I have
right.
an open dot or a closed dot?
You would have an open dot, and the arrow
I
would
do
go
have an open dot. Okay. Now think about the arrow.
The arrow would go to the right.
Girl,
No, it would go to the left.
no. Girl, that was great.
Oh, it goes to the right. It does go to
This
the right.
was a really, really tough problem. That's awesome. Okay, there's another part of the lesson that, and we won't have time to go through all of it. I just wanted to kind of make you aware of it. There's such a thing as a two-part inequality. And so in the packet, it kind of divides it into 2 groups. We have the and two-part inequalities, and we have the ors. And all that means is, let me see if I can get it to advance. The inequalities, the two-part inequalities I have on the screen right now, all have the word and in them. And then on the next page, I'm going to show you a different type of two-part inequalities. But everyone, look to the right of my screen, and you can see that I've got 2 dots this time. And so like on the top one, I have 2 open dots, and then I have a dark line between them. And so look at the far left. Let me see if I can get my pointer back. Look at the far left. We have a 2, and then the less than symbol, and then the variable n, and then the less than symbol, and then 6. And they read it out for us. It says n is greater than 2, and n is less than 6. I thought this was a little bit confusing. They're saying we always want to start reading an inequality at the variable. And so they did this. They said, well, we've got n is greater than 2, and n is less than 6. Now, honestly, I have heard this read as, see if I can get it to advance, n is between 2 and 6. I mean, so you're going to see it lots of different ways, but I thought n is between 2 and 6 is just as common as n is greater than 2 and n is also less than 6. And that's what the graph would look like. Another example. So they've got m is greater than or equal to -3, and m is less than 4. Another way that I've heard this written is -3 is less than or equal to m, which is less than 4. Whoops, sorry. And then you could also have the bottom example. And I can't see the graphs. And you can see the graphs on the right side of the screen. Y is greater than or equal to -5, so they've got the closed dot, and y is less than or equal to +5. Okay, so the next example, if I can get to it, we're going to skip that because I want to show you the other example. Here we go. They're called OR problems, and it's a two-part inequality, but they have the word OR. And so now look at my graph on the right side. You've got two different numbers marked with either open or closed dots, but the arrows, we're not connecting in between the two numbers. We're all the way to the left side of 2, and we're all the way to the right side of 4. And so it's a little more complex problem. And so let's look at the first one. The inequality would be written s is less than 2 or s is greater than or equal to 4. And you'll see that they'll give you that and they'll say, now graph it. And it's really kind of like just doing two inequality problems like we've been graphing earlier in the lesson. So same thing here. Your answer, the solution set might be s is less than or equal to -1 or x is greater than 3. And then the graph would look something like that. So obviously they call them two-part inequalities because there are two conditions that you have to graph or to solve for. So we've been, let me see, write the inequality graphed on the number line. Oh, what the heck. Let's try practice on one of these. We've got 2 more minutes. Okay, so for the first one, who wants to try to write an inequality for the first one?
We doing in, so it's gonna be combined together.
Yeah, it's the letter x is our variable.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna put x in the middle to
Nice.
start
Yes.
off. And then so for the first one, it'll be x is less than -5 on the left side, and then it'll be x is greater than or equal to, because that's a closed dot. X is greater than or equal to 4.
Okay, we just have to tweak that a little bit. I'm trying to think about how to show that. Okay,
So what I wrote was -5 is less than x greater than equal to 4. Where do I put the n at?
Oh, there is no n. We're using the variable x, and last time they used the variable n. Okay, so Danielle, you told me to put the x in the middle, so I put the x in the middle, and you knew that the -5 was going to be on the left side. Ignore that second closed dot. Pretend like it doesn't even exist. And so if we're talking, and I'm looking at the screen, we've got an empty circle there, so you know it's got to be either less than or greater than. And the arrow is going to the right. So this is x over here. Is x greater than -5 or less than -5?
It's greater than.
Nice. It is. So this is what I'm saying. I always want to read it starting at the variable because otherwise our brain gets confused. So from the variable, it's x is, oh, look at me. Look at my brain getting confused. Okay. X is greater than -5, okay? And so now we have to finish it out. And we know there's going to be a 4 over here. What kind of a symbol?
It's going to be
We're just comparing X and that 4. Go ahead.
well, if you just made that one greater than, then I gotta change this one and make it less than or equal to. Less than or equal to.
Nice job.
But here's where I'm confused at. Oh, I see what you're saying. Because no, I don't get it. I don't get it because if X is
X is here in the middle. Okay, so now look, I put the answer on the screen. It might be easier to see it. So we've got our -5, and then it's the smallest thing. So X is in the middle here. So X is in the middle. This dark line, it's all bigger than -5.
so I gotta go to the right.
Dark line are all values smaller than or equal to 4.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I never seen the N. I always seen the or.
Okay. I've never heard, honestly, until I saw this packet, the and type, I never heard it called that. Because like I said, I would have read this inequality as -5 is less than X, which is less than or equal to 4, which does not have the word and in it. They would put and in it. They would have read this as X is greater than -5 and X is less than or equal to 4. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. I see how to read it. Yeah, I see how to read it.
Until I started going through this specific packet, I had never heard of an and inequality. There are, 2-part inequalities. And so some of them, the values between, and some of them, it's the values, excluding the middle part. So, okay, so that one, let me see. I think that was, yeah, I know I was going kind of long. Anyway, this was a tough lesson. Both of you guys did fantastic. And like I said, if our goal was to get kind of a refresher, I feel like particularly, I had some really tough problems there at the end. I feel like both of you guys passed. You did very well on this, and I'm excited for your progress. So thank you.